This is America's Top Leadership Model. We will present the leadership techniques, behaviors, and skills that have transformed leaders for over 30 years. America's Top Leadership Model, SL2, has been widely adopted by organizations around the world. 38 countries, 5 continents, over 100,000 learners a year. Businesses of all sizes in all industries, and the U.S. federal government. Stay tuned to see the latest styles of today's leaders and meet our top leadership curriculum designers and see their cutting-edge work.
America's Top Leadership Model. SL2, Situational Leadership 2. Always in style. This first design is called SL2 Forever in Style. It's classic, it's iconic, and it just makes sense. Just like the people who practice SL2, they get what's in style, especially when it comes to leadership. This dress accentuates every movement of the person wearing it. That's because a situational leader, someone who has mastery of SL2, will always have the confidence to bring out the best in themselves and others, regardless of the situation. A leader who wears SL2 always embodies the right leadership style. The flexible fabric of the SL2 model moves with the leader. So intentionally, SL2 is not a cloak or a costume. It becomes interwoven into the very fiber of the leader. That's the kind of leader you become when you have mastery of SL2. It's a second skin that becomes second nature. What does style have to do with leadership? An interview with Pat Zagami.
Pat, tell us about your look. What are the fundamentals of the SL2 design?
This gown really shows off the foundations of situational leadership too. There's an inherent appeal about SL2 because it reveals some naked truths about human nature.
Naked truths? Interesting.
Yes, people are predictable if you know how to read them as they go through their stages of development. Their behavior reveals a lot about them. Let me explain why. As a leader develops understanding of the principles of SL2, he or she begins to take notice of motivations and needs that might have once been subtle or even invisible. She becomes more aware of her own language and style of expression. She begins to perceive others as colleagues, attempting to master new tasks, to learn and to grow. She can discern the person's competence and commitment in the various stages of development that come with mastering every new task. Having mastery of the skills of diagnosis, flexibility, and partnering for performance, the 3 skills of a situational leader, gives the leader resources within themselves to interact with confidence, to flex and use the right leadership style matched to the correctly diagnosed development level. People gravitate to a leader who uses the concepts of SL2.
This dress looks very couture. What does couture have to do with your leadership business?
The parallel is that couture is high design. There's a big part of our leadership business that's very high design too. We have many clients in very complex organizations that need us to really immerse ourselves in their culture so that our look and feel has to adapt to their look and feel, to their brand. Sometimes we create a couture or custom design, blending many of the programs in our suite just for them. Sometimes we collaborate with third parties or in-house staff to co-create a solution. For these types of clients, our work is very design intensive, very couture, very custom fitted.
I would think that describes a very elite group of clients.
It includes large, respected companies like SAP, Newell Rubbermaid, and Deloitte. Companies that are global, multilingual, and invested in the development of their executives and their high potential leaders. They take leadership development at all levels seriously.
When you consider the principles of timeless design, runway must translate to everyday. That's just part of the beauty of SL2. This is an adaptation of the first beautiful gown using the same iconic motif in a short day dress. Very modern. Your teenage daughter or an up-and-coming leader might want to steal this from your closet to add a touch of sophistication and a sense of reliability and accountability to their leadership ensemble. SL2 patterns in leadership design.
Now, what about the average business, nonprofit, even larger organization that simply doesn't have the staff or resources to do such a high design leadership training? What would you suggest for them?
You know, the bread and butter of our leadership business has always been tried and true patterns that can fit many organizations. At the center of every learning plan is SL2, which really helps any two people partner for performance. With the tools of SL2 at their disposal, this manager and individual contributor are able to read each other more successfully. That's what we call diagnosis. Their communications flow. They're on the same wavelength. They can empathize with one another, and they care about each other's success.
This design is all about understanding that power comes from authenticity, not authority. Notice that this jacket is comfortable without being pretentious in a big shoulder pad, look at me kind of way. It brings out the essence of the person wearing it. This jacket has some structure, yet it is relaxed because it is also comfortable, with an easy-fitting panache suitable for running errands on weekends. The SL2 leader is humble but assertive. He upholds the culture and values of the organization. This garment allows the person to be his authentic self, no matter what the situation. SL2 on the front line. The difference between an ordinary boss and a great boss. An interview with Patricia Stewart.
Patricia, tell us what your inspiration was for this look.
You know, the shirt focuses on the frontline context of SL2. Frontline managers stay close to their employees and their people. That's the concept behind situational frontline leadership. It's designed for emerging or new leaders who want to drill down into those micro skills. Situational frontline leadership has won several awards because it helps new and existing leaders improve both performance and engagement. It's based on new approaches to adult learning. Frontline teaches people how to have the partnering conversations with their direct reports on their feet, on the fly.
How does it help?
This program offers intensive skill building. It uses real work examples to give learners lots of practice. This practical, hands-on process develops skills that can be readily transferred to the job.
This design is all about empowering the individual, about investing in one's own future. It's form-fitting, really showing off the figure of the person wearing it. The straight angles accentuate her points of power. Notice the lines of the vest which crisscross the heart, mind, hands, and habits of this person, important in putting intention into action. She's comfortable in her own skin, and she has a full grasp of where she's going in life and why. She's assertive and personable. This line is called Situational Self-Leadership. The SL2 Mindset for Emerging Leaders. An interview with Susan Fowler.
Susan, tell us about your look. What were the design fundamentals guiding situational self-leadership?
I created SSL to give individuals in the workplace the mindset and the skill set to be more successful in their roles. So many people go through life without consciously thinking about their goals at work, how to manage their own development, and especially how to manage up to get what they need to achieve those goals. People need to understand their needs and how to communicate them effectively in the workplace. People have to get to know their assumed constraints and determine which ones are keeping them from accomplishing their goal. People also need to identify their points of power in order to effectively influence others.
Now, tell me what you mean by points of power.
People may mistakenly believe that the only way to get ahead is position power. But the reality is that there are many types of power that one can use to reach their full potential and realize their dreams. Relationship power, knowledge power, personal power, and task power. These are all pieces of the power puzzle.
The power puzzle, I love that. Now, what's the difference between empowerment and self-leadership?
Empowerment is something that's given to you. Self-leadership is something you give to yourself. It's what you do to make empowerment work.
And why the vest? What made you create this design?
It's a metaphor for self-leaders. They invest in themselves. They take a vested interest in their lives and their direction. People who invest in themselves take responsibility for moving beyond their assumed constraints or those beliefs that are grounded in the past but keep them from moving forward. Self-leaders are continuously challenging their assumed constraints.
These models are all members of a project team. They come from different functional departments, and they have been brought together on a special assignment. They have never worked together before, so they'll need to get a sense of each other's strengths and learn what each brings to the table. That's why each is wearing the pattern of SL2, which has been extended into an entire line of garments that fit a diverse workforce. Because even within a single company, groups as small as 3 or 5 people develop their own group culture. And different cultures can sometimes be found in the same company, across divisions, departments, functional groups, or even peer clusters. The common way these diverse individuals will effectively work together will be by using a combination of SL2, situational self-leadership, and situational team leadership. SL2 in every team. An interview with Eunice Parisi-Carew.
Eunice, tell us about your look. What is the relationship of situational team leadership to SL2?
Well, situational team leadership really grew out of our research around intact teams. Teams are comprised of diverse individuals, each with their own values, their needs, and their styles. So there's a lot of complexity in that individuals have their respective developmental levels. Every relationship within a team has a unique dynamic, and collectively, the combination of relationships creates a very complicated dynamic.
Eunice, what traits should a team leader possess?
We teach leaders to recognize these stages and then adapt their leadership style accordingly. If you notice the leader is interacting with each person, drawing them out, soliciting their ideas, that's because a leader will never have an empowered, self-directed team unless he or she is willing to let go of control. A leader who empowers the team has a dramatic impact on team morale, which ultimately unleashes productivity. Empowerment is really about letting go so that others can take the energy and run with it.
Leading with trust. An interview with Randy Conley.
Randy, you're the designer of this interesting wrap, right? Tell us about your look and how it ties into the rest of the line that we've seen.
Well, I designed the wrap as a metaphor for trust. Great leaders know how to weave trust into their relationships with their people. And they know that trust is like a blanket of warmth and safety. It's that protective element in your connections with people. And when you have enough trust, you don't always notice it. But when you don't have enough trust, you immediately feel cold and unsafe. So I wanted to portray trust as a human essential, sort of like a hug that is always handy. That's why it's a wrap.
And it's a beautiful wrap, comforting and soft as a baby's blanket, yet stylish and something you never want to be without. Now, are there certain characteristics that a leader who embodies trust possesses?
Absolutely. Leaders that people trust are able. They've demonstrated over time that they can be trusted to do the right thing. They have a sense of credibility due to successes over the long haul. And finally, they're connected and dependable. It's those core qualities that inspired me to design a wrap.
So true. I can especially see the concepts of connection and dependability in your design. Besides having those characteristics, what else can leaders do to inspire trust?
Well, there are so many things, but the keys are to give credit to others, to listen, and to be honest in your communications. But the critical thing about trust is that it sets people free. It gives them wings.
SL2 and leading people through change.
Pat, tell us about leading people through change.
Organizations are constantly in a state of change, but leaders aren't taught how to lead change. This cape represents an almost magical transformation that leaders can have on their people when they lead change effectively. You can't expect people to adapt to change or embrace it without understanding their needs. People have to have the opportunity to get their information needs met and to talk about their personal concerns.
Now, what inspired you to use the sheer fabric?
The key to creating lasting change and buy-in is transparency. Organizations can't hide anything if they expect people to get involved in making the change initiative successful. Transparency builds trust. So this cape is a little reminiscent of a magician's cape, but with one important difference. You can see what's going on underneath and behind the scenes. It's a cape that a stylish, sophisticated leader would wear, not to create any kind of illusion or to deceive the eye, but rather to inspire that magic can happen when you follow the steps of leading people through change.
A legacy of leadership. An interview with Ken Blanchard.
Ken, we've seen an impressive lineup of designers. Tell me a little bit about why you selected them.
Sure, I hand-selected every one of our curriculum designers and invited them to build applications from our SL2 framework. Our founding designers have been instrumental in evolving the concepts and designs of SL2. And as you've seen, other designers have used their experience to evolve SL2 into other applications like teams, self-leadership, frontline leadership, and leading change. We recently added trust as a foundational piece because without trust, you really can't lead.
Ken, it's been almost 35 years since you co-developed SL2. Tell us why SL2 has been and always will be in style.
You know, leadership fads come and go like diets. But how many diets do you need to lose weight? Only one, the one you stick to. The beauty of SL2 has been its ability to endure the test of time. It's a classic that remains as relevant and practical today as when we first developed it years ago. Leaders tell us that SL2 works because it's simple enough to remember and it makes sense in many situations. It doesn't matter how old you are, how seasoned or experienced, SL2 helps leaders lead from a place of authenticity, and being authentic is always in style.
America's top leadership model, SL2, always in style. Find out why SL2 is America's top leadership model. Visit www.kenblanchard.com/style.